Judge Quinn stopped the room with a single raised finger. The silence felt surgical. "I reviewed the property and tax records," he said. "Someone here is lying." I didn't look at my parents. I didn't look at my sister. I watched my own reflection in the polished table, calm, hollow, ready. This confession doesn't begin with anger. It begins with patience. They called it a family dispute, as if betrayal were a scheduling error. My younger sister sat 2 rows ahead of me, hands folded, eyes red on cue. She had hired her own lawyer to prove I had nothing, no ownership, no claim, no history worth protecting. A mercy killing dressed as help. My mother cried when she testified. Real tears. She said they gave me every opportunity. My father nodded beside her, approval moving through him like a reflex he'd never questioned. They said I was difficult, unreliable, that I walked away. My lawyers stayed calm, too calm. That was the tell. I used to carry my sister on my shoulders through the empty halls of our first building, back when it smelled like dust, paint, and possibility. Our parents called it an investment property. I called it sweat. I renovated it myself after night shifts, paid the taxes when their checks bounced, signed nothing, trusted everyone. I taught my sister how to read balance sheets at the kitchen table. She laughed at my seriousness. "Relax," she said. "Family doesn't steal from family." That line aged badly. The first crack came quietly. A utility bill redirected. A contractor who stopped returning my calls. Then a congratulatory email from the city, addressed to my sister. New property manager. Same address. I didn't confront anyone. I watched. Late nights, I pulled county filings, LLC registrations, a new entity formed 2 years earlier, listing a familiar mailing address, my parents' home, my sister named managing member, my name missing, like I'd never existed. The evidence didn't hurt. The intent did. I asked my father calmly. He said I misunderstood. My mother said paperwork was confusing. My sister smiled like a child who had already hidden the knife. That's when I stopped asking questions. Revenge doesn't start with rage. It starts with silence. I replayed every year, every receipt, every tax payment made from my account when theirs was temporarily frozen. I hired a forensic accountant under a shell name, quiet, precise. I let them file the lawsuit. They wanted the court to erase me. I wanted the court to see everything. I transferred nothing. I hid nothing. I waited. Back in the courtroom, my sister's lawyer stood first, confident. He spoke of abandonment, of generosity, of how they let me stay involved out of kindness. My sister dabbed her eyes, my mother sobbed, my father nodded again. Then my lawyer stood. He didn't argue, he asked for time. That's when Judge Quinn stopped everything. "I reviewed the property and tax records myself," he said, "and I found inconsistencies." My sister stiffened for half a second. Payments for this property's taxes were made for 9 consecutive years by the same account, not owned by the LLC, not owned by the parents. He looked directly at me. "Mr. So-and-so, that account belongs to you." My mother's crying broke rhythm. My father finally turned. The judge wasn't finished. The LLC was formed after those payments began. The property was transferred without compensation. Documents were filed stating Mr. So-and-so relinquished his interest. He tapped the file. There is no signature. My sister's lawyer sat down without being told. That's when my lawyer spoke. One sentence. "We'd like to submit the full ledger, Your Honor." The room shifted. The air thinned. I watched my sister realize, piece by piece, that I hadn't been absent, I'd been documenting, that I hadn't walked away, I'd stepped back to see who took my place. The judge looked at her. "Miss So-and-so, did you file these documents?" She didn't answer. My father tried to speak. The judge shut him down. The ruling came later. The silence came first. Ownership restored, damages assessed, fraud referred. My sister didn't look at me as they escorted her out. My parents finally did. I didn't feel victorious. I felt accurate. I'm not telling this because I'm proud. I'm telling it because justice doesn't shout. It records. They thought I had nothing because I never asked for credit. They confused quiet with weakness. They replaced me on paper and assumed I'd disappear. But I was always there, watching, paying, waiting. And when the judge asked who was lying, the truth didn't need my voice. It already had my signature.